right, Spencer, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, my name's Spencer. I'm from a little state next to New York in the states of America, and I am a flat earther. Boom.
There you go. Before we get into the flat Earth stuff, tell me about your podcast.
Yeah, so I have a little kind of podcast thing that I started, which is it just started out as me reading some books. And then I started trying to get some conversations with people. So I'm just getting it up and running, but it's called The Light of All Nations. You can find it on SoundCloud. It's just soundcloud.com/ The Light of All Nations. And it's an interesting thing. It's just a place for me to kind of share like some thoughts that I have about uh, life and things we could do to make it awesome. So
Yeah,
yeah.
right. What are some of those ideas? Let's share it with everyone.
There's many ideas. There's like a lot of technology that used to be here in the world that kind of people forgot about, and it's like really good stuff. So some of it was like hundreds of years ago, some of it was like more recent,
Yeah,
and that's one of the ideas that that's one of the topics that I like talking about. Um, and then another one is just like how we form our societies and our local communities, which I think is pretty important because um a lot of people have gotten really kind of involved with like this greater like oneness, which isn't a bad thing, but it's bad if it's being curated by the wrong people. So it seems like we kind of need to do a little bit more like introspection on like the local level instead of just listening to like news that's all from like one source. And
yeah,
I think one way to do that is, I mean, there's many ways to do that, but one of them involves like just participating in your local area. And there's many things we could talk about with that, but it's actually really all correlated to the newspaper, and the organization, the association that's formed from a newspaper. And a newspaper these days could be anything. Like the modern newspaper would be like a TV media outlet or something, but essentially it's kind of like the subscribers to that news source create the association by which people agree to a certain narrative, and like what they say is like what we're going to do, right?
yeah,
So that's just how it works, like from a mechanistic standpoint. And I feel like if all the small newspapers are subservient to like a larger source, then things can get out of hand pretty quick. And it's just like if the people who are writing those newspapers are getting their news from somewhere else, even if it's not directly, if they subscribe to something that's like a giant media corporation or whatever, um, the information that they get is going to be you're going to see the influence of that in what they write, and then everybody else that reads that is just supposed to agree with it. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we're in like a bit of a mess. But it's not everywhere. I know Australia is doing pretty well and everything, so there's places that
yeah.
that realize that. So yeah.
Like our media is not too much different. We get it's just not as like it's not as intense. There's not like fear mongering behind ours. There's a lot of like political imbalances and a lot of like petty fighting between grown men, and they're just trying to spit their shit. I think with the one where like I had a chat to somebody last week about it, and there's a like a heller amount of fear over in the States due to whatever it may be. It's a perpetual fear being just forced down your throat through media. But the thing is, like, the problem with that is if you get a structured design like such as these media outlets, what happens when you sort of renounce them? You start to believe the other side, whether it's right or not. So this is probably where there's a lot of people going, I know, let's use whatever media outlet is a load of shit. So immediately the person on the other side is correct. You know what I mean? Without sort of fact checking it.
Right.
So this is
That's
it.
also a problem.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a lot of like, yeah, media is the issue, but it's the people reading it too. We're gonna not be led so blindly into what we believe and what we don't believe. And this whole A and B bullshit that we do is, I think, like you said, it's we need to look at our structures of society, like you said, where it's not as like imbalanced between us and them, where it's us and them against the bigger, the people up here. It's us against them up here rather than us and them on the left and right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the people up there that you're talking about, like, they're the ones that oftentimes kind of write the script of what A is and what B is, and then it's like, okay, you have a choice. But really, there's also secret option C, which is not to listen to what the hell they're talking about. Because they're they're making controversy. That's how the politic works. It's like you're supposed to put people into little groups to identify them, and then say like, okay, now because you're in this group, you have to believe what these people say, and like it's just like a mess. It's just a mess to separate people from each other, from the simple idea of just being able to look at one another and just be like, hey, it's really easy, and it's kind of funny because that still goes on if you exercise the free will to do it. But like if you're walking down the street outside and like nobody's saying hi, it's partly because you're not saying hi, because you could just say hi or even just smile at somebody, and then like you'll see the effects of that like the very next day. It's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
How quickly one person can create waves. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like I said, the guy that I was speaking to last week about a similar topic, it all starts with your neighbor. You know what I mean? Just saying hi. Just getting to know them, and that sort of creating a divide between humans isn't very hard. Like you said, putting them into small groups and then demonizing. It's a tribalistic thing. It's something that's really ingrained in us genetically. Like it's very big, and you see it all the way through your whole age group, right? You'll go through primary school, high school, whatever you guys got over there, where you start to develop little groups. Obviously, as you start to age, those groups become a little bit more fragile in terms of like the hierarchy is established by something so stupid, like who looks better or who has like whose parents have a little bit more money. And then we go into our adult life with that exact same fucking mentality. I got to be better, and making these small hierarchies. And then people who can't fit into a hierarchy where they think they belong, they create their own. And it's easy to create your own if you attach hate to it. If you immediately go up to somebody and be like, I hate rich people, for instance. You just use that as the premise of your group. It's very easy to create a hierarchy-based group off that, because lots of people see rich people and they go, they got something I want and I can't get, so I hate them. And other people go, yeah, I hate them too. Rich people aren't the problem. The ultra rich possibly, but not the rich. And it's very easy to create these groups out of hate and malice, rather than just having a chat to them and being like, well, if we're using the rich people as an example, it's like, how did you get rich? Teach me. But we don't want to. We'd rather.
I think there's a lot of people who, have a lot of money that are not likable because maybe they're like, reliant upon a certain system that's paying them, or there's some people who are really likable because they've gone out and started from nothing and like figured out how to earn it. And so there's also, obviously it's easy to just again, I classify people, but it's different when there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of nuance with people, and like this is what's interesting about just the identity kind of politicking that goes on, because a lot of people, if they put others in a group or put themselves in a group, like they might not be fully there. They might not like fully understand who they are. Like you see that a lot with people who identify themselves first as like a skin color, for example, and then it's like, oh well, as a so and so, and it's like, are you really here if you're as a so and so? It's like, so it's kind of an interesting thing, because I don't know. I feel like that's just a trap that a lot of people fall into, and it's something that
it's super easy to fall in those groups. It's called social currency. It's the thing that you define yourself as. You assume it gives you some sort of social currency which you exchange with other adults or other humans in forms of stories or fucking materialistic objects, and everybody does it. We've all heard the stories, like, but I think the issue with it is nobody wants to hear the good stories as well. We always want to hear bad stories. We want to. It's this perpetual world of pity party. Like, who has it the worst now? We know we can't get to the best. We know we can't get there. Like, nobody's going to be the next. I don't know anybody who's going to be the next Jeff Bezos, for instance. You're not going to beat that man's life. So what do? We go the opposite way.
Like, could you imagine being that guy? Like, I would hate my life.
Yeah,
it's just in the office for probably 15 hours a day.
It's just like, that's not a life for everyone, man. Like,
getting supposedly, like, for doing that kind of work and allocating for particular people to work here and work there and whatever he does,
Yeah.
And then you have to make all these difficult decisions, like, okay, are we gonna fuck a group of people over? Like, let's see, we'll have some different supply chain, and then like that's gonna put a bunch of people out of business who have been delivering stuff because they just can't meet our competitive price for gallons of gas per kilometer or whatever the hell it is, right? So well, I guess it'd be liters per anyway. So it's just like that kind of a job, I just feel like is like so unappealing, because like, when does he have time? When is he meant to be happy? And I don't know if there is a time. Maybe he is, or maybe he's just like so obsessed with like talking about the next time we're gonna go to the moon or whatever the fuck it is, that's the only way he can feel anything. I don't know, but it's
just
characters like that are interesting people.
Different breed of human. They're just a different person. They saw an opportunity. They took it. They took a huge amount of risk. Like, and everybody looks at Jeff Bezos and they all go like, the dude's a bit of an asshole, but you have to be. Like, to run a business that large, but the fact that everybody still uses that business so fucking much, it's like we're products of our own creation. We all sit here and complain that he doesn't pay his workers and then immediately go buy something off Amazon to fuel the fire. We're fucking idiots. But the thing is, like, not a lot of people are going to do what that man does. You can't be the world's richest person and not be hated, for one. You got to think everything this dude reads is just shit about him. People shitting on him. And two, the dude did it with relatively nothing. And everyone goes, he got a big handout from his parents. He got $300,000 from his parents, right? I know lots of people who've been given more money and have done much less. Like, the dude has created something, this fucking thing, this ginormous fucking thing. He's a different animal. And I don't think, like, when you look at him, you try and apply your life to his and go, oh, I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't. And that's why you're not there. You will never be where he is. And that's what I was saying before. There's no one willing to jump through those hoops that he did to be that prick, to be that guy, to create the biggest company on the planet. So what do? We start to go the opposite way, where I got less sleep than you did. Or, like, my kids kept me up longer than your kids kept you up. And we start using our social currency backwards, where it's like, who had it the worst? Like, oh, my childhood was worse than yours. And then that creates this little bit of fucking like infighting between people who want to argue about negative aspects of life rather than people who prop other people up for doing well. It's it's just who we are now. And it's like, it's cemented by the shit that you see on social media. And once again, all you see is rich, pretty people having shit that you don't have. And then it makes you not want to work. Makes people lazy. It makes people just not want to go out there and do anything. They just want to blame other people for their fucking problems, and then that's it, you know? But it's a hard thing to say. There's a lot of people who need help and aren't getting it. And there's a lot of people who have help and they ruin it. So
yeah, so I mean, this kind of goes back to, like, you know, some of the technology stuff. When I say technology, it sounds so like techno-rific, like digital, but that's not what I mean. But I feel like a lot of that stuff like can really help to bring us to a world where we don't have to, because like the fact is a lot of stuff is like it's just it's really easy because we're able to trade. Like, granted, you know, now there's like taxing and all that stuff, but you know, you're still pretty much able to buy what you need and stuff, or you know, get your hands on something that you want. That's like, for example, like a raw material that's purified from nature somewhere. Like, you don't have to go out and do that yourself. Like, it's somebody's done that part of the process, you know. So in that respect, it's good. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like people are gonna have to kind of like get over themselves about, like you said, the kind of the virtue signaling and all the who was more oppressed than other people, that type of thing. And after we get past that, we're able to do some really awesome things, you know. But it's just like, it's just going to come down to like whether we're able to dig ourselves out of that in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, but there's just some things you can't like turn away from. Like, in terms of like humans as a whole, yes. In terms of like specific groups, definitely not. Like, you can't look at like years and years of oppression with black people or women and go, just, you know, let's move on now. Like, there has to be like systematic change from the top down to make it available for everybody. And I think realistically, that's what everybody wants. It's just whatever you guys can get, I can get, and let's work at the same pace. Let's all start on the same starting line rather than back and forth. But in terms of like getting over that, there needs to be a what about me thing on the other end. You know what I mean? So it's like human nature is like, if we could all work together, we'd be fantastic. We'd be light years ahead of ourselves now. But you know what I mean? I think the thing that you're talking about in terms of like this technology, it fuels a fire that doesn't need to be, but it's fueled for a reason, and it's to create the hate. Whereas like just going out and once again just saying hi to your neighbor requires nothing at all. Requires 10 minutes of your day where you just go say hi and learn somebody's life.
Yeah, and it's a great start. You know, that really is a great start. Some of the most difficult problems in the world, like in particular areas and stuff, like that's all that really needs to be done. But it's a question of whether people are going to take it upon themselves to do that or not. Like, I was having a conversation about Israel and Palestine, et cetera, the other day. And, you know, I was like, okay, how about we just, because somebody mentioned an idea, like, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to, you know, go outside, talk to our neighbors, no matter if they identify as Israeli or Palestinian, and just help one another pick up trash in the community or do something, you know, like go outside.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's kind of just like, that's one of the things. And I was like, okay, so where does this problem even originate? Because nobody seems to even know. They just say that one side hates the other, and they, you know, they don't have any reason to, but they do, and all that kind of thing. And it's just like, at some point you have to just say, you know what, we're just going to call it the Holy Land. And then everybody, you can also call it Israel and Palestine, whatever you want. But first and foremost, we'll just call it the Holy Land, because that's what it is. And then, you know, it should be that simple. It really should be that simple. And if there wasn't this competitive kind of like fight going on about like this like what do I want to call it? This irrational fight about scarcity of resources, then we wouldn't have some of these problems. But that kind of competition all stems from the idea that there's a limited supply of resources and land, you know, and that idea in and of itself comes from being on a ball. So here we are. You want to talk about it?
Let's do the flat Earth. I don't understand the model. I talked to David Weiss about it, and he was a guy. He likes to talk. He likes the sound of his own voice. David.
Yeah. Well, he's been doing a lot of interviews, and like, he's been crushing it. But he's just, he's going so quick. Like, he's just saying the same thing, So
just the same. But what is the model? What do you believe in terms of the flat Earth?
Okay, so the flat Earth it's just where we live. If you go outside, like, we'll get to the map in a bit, but if you go outside, take your shoes off and just put 2 feet on the ground, you're not going to be moving anywhere because it's stationary. It's not like it's swirling around and everything. Mm-hmm. And I get, like, relatively speaking, you wouldn't be able to tell. So, that's not like, you can't just, it's not just a proof just like that, right? But if you go out to, like, the ocean, or you go out to some lake or something, or you just look at the horizon, it's just, that's what it is. It's just a horizontal flat horizon. The whole thing is flat and stationary. You can fly over it. It's flat. It's flat. And it's just like, it's just weird because of where we are as people. Like, if you look up at the sky, you'll see a perspective-based kind of a dome-looking thing. Because if you plot that point of, like, wherever you can see to, like, in the whatever the resolution distance limit is, then it's going to be a dome. Like, if you were to put it onto a 3D graph. But that's it's like an optical effect. Like, it's actually not a dome. And, by the way, there's a lot of speculation going on in terms of, like, what's beyond Antarctica. Some people think that there's, like, a actual glass dome or something crazy. I don't believe in any of that nonsense, because it's just like, that's just like still kind of like a ball. Like, you can't get out, right? So it's kind of lame. So I just think that there's an infinite ceiling, just like there's an infinite land. And wherever we are, we're at the center of this perspective dome. That's it, really. And yeah, like, I mean, if you listen to some of the interviews that the guys were doing, these flying, like, explorations or whatever out to Antarctica in, like, the 40s and 50s, and they're coming back with reports of, like, these huge mountain ranges and, like, just tons of land that's, eventually it thaws out and nobody's ever seen any of this land before, and oh my god, there's so much land. But then a couple of years later, like, the United Nations had to, make this treaty and say, like, okay, nobody's allowed to go out there until we know what the fuck is out there. So, it's kind of annoying because they made the treaty like a really, really long time. And then they put everybody on a ball with NASA. They made everybody kind of believe, okay, we're on a ball because, I don't know, maybe it was for control, maybe it's for money, maybe it was just because, like, they wanted to stop people from, like, exploring in case it's, like, dangerous. I don't know, man. But that's what happened, and these people from the last century just kind of left us in this mess without any explanation, and here we are. It's just kind of like, it's annoying, bro, because, like, once they changed the textbooks, then everybody got that information. So now everybody's just walking around deluded as fuck, like, wondering, like, where's the curvature? I mean, like, it's obviously flat, but it's like it's just, they just think that we're on a ball and, like, we're insignificant, and, like, all those kind of bad emotions can come from this cosmology is kind of what I'm trying to point out.
They didn't really change any textbooks. Like we've known the Earth has been around for a long time, like almost 2,000 years.
Okay, so
like it's been a hot minute. It's not just in the last, this United Nations, NASA world of control. It's been quite a while. Like,
yeah, so that's kind of a misconception. Like,
by whom?
So, okay, so let me bring up something crazy, and then we'll try and we'll go back in time and make it sound like a little bit less crazy. So I was talking to a guy earlier today, and he told me about this ridiculous concept called last Thursdayism. Have you heard of that?
I don't think anybody's heard of that. Keep talking. I'm gonna look it up as we go.
Okay, so it's this ridiculous idea where, the whole universe started last Thursday.
Yeah, I understand. I know it. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And like you could never prove otherwise because all of our memories could just be some collective fabrication, and it's like super ontological and doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of have to go, yeah, maybe it's a simulation, whatever, right? But if you were to extrapolate that out, 100 years, maybe the world that as we know it was different, and then like 100 years ago they made up some of these things, and like they kind of like made up the heliocentric thing, and then like they backdated it to like the 1500s, right, with Galileo and everything, and like that could all be fabricated. I don't think that that's true because we can read the works and see exactly what they were writing and everything, so that doesn't seem really logical to me either. But to me, all evidence points to 1542. They came up with this idea. Okay. But, and there's, we can get into that another time if you want, who was behind it and everything. But, the idea that everybody's known that it was a ball for 2,000 years is nonsense, because the idea of Eratosthenes, which was the guy, supposedly the alleged Greek mathematician type of guy, who, ran this experiment, like the sticks and shadows experiment. They had a guy in Alexandria and a guy in, Carthage or something, like something 200-300 miles away. And like Rome, Italy, somewhere in Italy, maybe. And they were, or Israel. I think it was Jerusalem, actually. So anyway, and they did like this test and said that because the sun's rays come in at an angle, if you put a stick here and you put a stick over there, one of them doesn't have a shadow, one does at exactly this degrees, angle, then you could determine what the circumference of the ball is. But like, what's the problem with that?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, so the thing I struggle with the most with this flat Earth thing, right? There's an abundance of evidence.
Wait, hang on. Could we just finish?
Yeah. Okay.
So the one problem with that is that, like, yeah, you could, in theory, measure and calculate the circumference of a sphere based on that, but you'd have to know that you'd have to assume. What happened to my phone here?
Yeah, I lost your camera, man.
Oh, I don't know. You still have audio? Okay, so you'd have to assume. There we go. You'd have to assume in the first place that it's a ball. You'd have to assume that it's a planet. That's the assumption, So they made up this mathematical equation, And the thing is, like, we never see like the sun coming in at a perfect like one particular angle. It's always spread out. It's always crepuscular. They're coming in at all different types of angles. And if you did the same experiment with, instead of a sun being 93 million miles away, instead you did it with like a sun, like a light source that's close and local, you could measure the sphericity of a table, because according to Eratosthenes, that's just the way the math works, And you would think that if he was such a smart guy, that like all the mathematicians, like afterwards, Pythagoras and all these guys, they would have like, Xenophon, Herodotus, like the actual historians, like they probably would have made note of him, right? But they didn't. Nobody did because he probably wasn't even like a real guy. He was probably just made up. And, there's no evidence of him in any textbooks before the 1980s. So, it's like they put this nonsense science into the textbooks next to all the other good science, the real science, the material sciences like chemistry and other things like that. And then they put on the next page, you turn the page and there's like that meme of like the crust and the mantle and the core with like melted magnets, which make like a magnetic field, which is impossible because every magnet loses its magnetism if you melt it. So that's ridiculous. It's just like, but you kind of have to go, okay, well, I guess we have to just believe them for now. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but once again, it's like you same as David, man. There's like a heap of information coming out, but when it's always reversed, there's always like where's your studies? Where is your scientific studies? Obviously, if the right. flat Earth society was so large and so big, and but once again, there's always excuses attached to this. So there'll be like where are your scientists? And we don't have any. Why don't you have any? Oh, because they're too scared to come forward. It's the biggest load of shit. If this was like the biggest conspiracy in the world where it's like people are meant to come forward and be like, this is what's really happening. Like where I just don't understand where the studies are. And this is what I tried to ask David. Yeah. And it's just weird pseudo facts until it's like backed up. You could understand that, right? Like
100%, dude. Listen, the idea, it's right to assume that the idea is totally insane when you hear about it, because that's what I did. I was listening to David as well, and I was hearing him and I was going like, I can't really think of anything to refute what he's saying, but it's impossible. So, I'm just not going to think about it for 6 months. And then I, heard about it again. And then I was like, all right, I got to look into this. So, but what's your question specifically?
Even just saying what you're saying, and it's like everything that's attached behind it. There's always this fear of being lied to. This fear, this giant conspiracy that somebody's out to get us, the government's out for control. If it was such a simple science, like why does all of that have to be attached to the notion of a flat Earth? Like why can't it just be the Earth is flat, here's our evidence, end of story? It's always like the Earth is flat and the government's out to control us and NASA's a conspiracy. Do you see how it's like compiling things to reinforce an argument rather than just being like, here's our evidence, which has never been done. There's been no person for flat Earth that has been, here's our evidence. It's always like, here's one thing that we kind of found, but the government's out to attack you.
All right, so here, I know what you're saying. So let's do it right now. So here's our evidence.
That's not science, man. You're just going outside with a phone.
Yeah. So well, no, I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. So this is Lake Tahoe. I'm on like the kind of the northern side, the northern-eastern side. And let me just go over to the shore here. So do you have Google Maps in front of you?
Yeah, I can get it.
Measure the distance on Google Maps. Okay, so it's kind of bright, but let me just get down to the water level.
So apparently Lake Tahoe is 35 kilometers long, the long way, north to south.
Right. Yeah. So hang on. I gotta find a good spot here. Okay. So what can you see from there?
See some water and some rocks.
Can you see all the way across here? Is there a thing in the way? It's hard to climb with a phone. All right, so that's the south side, way down there.
Mm-hmm.
if you can see that.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's 35 kilometers away, roughly speaking. So we can do the math of what we would expect, what kind of curvature we would expect on a ball with 24,901 miles in circumference. And there should be some kind of a drop. Okay. So there should be some kind of a drop, but that's just not what we see. You know, it's just.
But you're visually doing it. It's like doing any other experiment and just being like, all right, I'm just going to test this just by having a look at it. Nah, I didn't see it, so it didn't happen.
Yeah, I know, because I don't have like a laser with me and all that stuff.
And they've also done this test before.
There's been plenty that have been done,
and they all show disappearance of a boat.
Yeah. Okay. So
how does a boat disappear then?
Right. So let me just say real quick. So, the experiment has been done in many different settings, many different locations. And this body of water isn't even really that large, to be honest with you, compared to
the ocean.
Some of the distances that we can see, like from over an ocean out to an island that's like 1,000 miles away, or like 100 miles away or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it has been done though. I mean, like we're on Zoom, right? So I can find some videos and like share it with you if you want.
Yeah. To be fair, I've seen the videos, and I think there's obviously going to be like contrary stuff to it. Like there's always going to be the other side. But as I was saying, it's like, so I spoke to Donald James from NASA, and he's this very like evidence-based, like he's a very articulate, well-educated man who was very like, if you here's some facts, if you want them, take them, if you don't, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? But then there's like facts backed by people who have done tests, like substantial tests. It's like the thing I don't get about this is what I'm trying to understand, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't believe in what they want. If you want to believe the earth is flat, hunky-dory, have at it, right? The thing that I don't get, one is there's all the tests that I've seen done by flat earthers, there's only flat earthers there. So once again, if you're going to do any type of experiment, it needs to be peer-reviewed. It needs to be looked at by other people in a similar field to go yes and no. Like you can't just be like, I've stepped outside with a laser beam and I've shot it across a lake and I didn't see it, so boom, facts.
Yeah, listen, man,
that's not how that works.
In terms, I do agree with you. Like, there's much to be desired in terms of people doing the correct science and writing it up. Like writing up a scientific method and doing an experiment and publishing results. Like there's a lot of like haphazardly made videos, like
that's right,
of people doing the flat. Like, I'm with you, bro. Like, it should be, people should take the time to make it professional and make it look good and not have like this crazy font over here and like, it's just that a lot of people, like you were saying before, like they kind of associate and attach the idea that they're like upset that they got lied to kind of thing. And like, so it makes sense. Like they're good, sometimes the way that they present information is going to be kind of, how would you say, like, kind of crude, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm with you. It should be done more professionally. And I think that once more people in the community understand that and like start curating work that's just done in a completely objective way, like we'll just get even further, because then it's really difficult for people to, like, in other words, if you don't give a qualified scientist an emotional reason to attack your work, then it's kind of like more like they'll be forced to look into it and go point by point. But it's like some of them just won't do that. They'll just ignore it and just go, yeah, it's a ball. We've seen that too. But I know what you're saying. It should be people should put more effort.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's like if this community was so large, and once again, it's not me being against it. I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe, and that doesn't make me think any different of you. You seem like a good guy, but it's just like this weird. I just once again still don't understand how there's so many things. It's like, all right, apples are red, right? Everybody knows that some apples are red, and me going to no, apples are orange. The government's lying to you. It's a conspiracy. Jesus is coming back. Scientists won't prove it wrong because they're idiots and they're under this indoctrination of this cabal. You'd go, Josh,
all that stuff gets annoying,
you know what I mean? Like you'd go, Josh, you're bananas for saying that.
They're not all red.
Yeah, but I know that, but it's just purely as an example. You know what I mean? But once again, you guys, another thing that doesn't. I'm sorry. I don't mean to attack, but it's like there's no. With the flat Earth, every person I've spoken to about flat Earth in regards to them being pro flat Earth, no one can give me an answer. What is it? We don't know.
What?
Well, if it's like you understand that it's flat from a visual perspective, like that's all. And then I'm like, well, what happens elsewhere? And they're like, we don't know. So like the whole, there
are some things that are up to speculation, but like maybe we could, maybe I could share some videos with you and.
Load them up, but that's not what I was getting at. The thing is with the we don't know is some people believe that there's like this flat bottom with the globe top. Some people believe that it's never ending and it's got the flat top, and it's all speculative. It's all this weird hypothesis where like even in your own community,
some
there's so
is
many
up to speculation still. Some of it is.
So why can't flat Earth get on the same page? Like, why is it all spread out in terms of like? At least the scientific community is all. How?
Because science isn't something that everybody just gets on the same. Like, one person announces it. This is what the new science is, and then everybody gets on the same page. That's not what science is supposed to be. That's what the religion of scientism, Scientology, science, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is now, because the guys who want to say that they have the word on science, they're the authority on science, like they just come out with whatever bit of news that they want to say is the truth, and then everybody in the mainstream is supposed to just agree with it,
But you see right there,
that's not what
there's like a weird, like I understand what science is. But it's like I understand that like all right. There's once again I study psych. Like I understand how research goes. Come up with a theory. You do the study. You build a hypothesis based on it, and then you back it up with evidence. Yeah. You guys are at the initial stages, right? But it's been like this initial stage of ideas and just creating hypothesis and but not like substantiating it with any evidence. Like, does that make sense?
Okay, so let's do some evidence then. So I'm gonna see if what I can share on Zoom here.
Yeah, load it up.
Only the host can share in this meeting.
Hold on. I think I can adjust this. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
I figured out how to do this last time, but I just gotta,
okay.
God, how did I do it? I am so tech illiterate. I reckon I can just.
Yeah, I don't know how to use Zoom.
Might be able to make you host. Do you want to change? Yes, we might lose it. I think you should be. You should be a host now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll share my screen here. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. All right. So.
Hold up. Let me see if I can get it up on my one. Just give me 1 sec.
Okay. So this video was done in 2013.
Yeah, just hold it for 1 sec. I'll
Okay, it's just gonna play. It's 39 minutes. I'll scrub to where we need to be in a bit.
For some reason, mine is not picking up at all. I'll just describe the video. It's alright. I cancel it. Fuck off.
Well, no, try and get it onto the screen.
Like I'm trying. It's coming up as a black screen on mine.
Oh.
Like it's coming up in nothing. You might have to be able to like share it.
It looks like I'm sharing screen.
Yeah, it's just
so
I don't think it's coming up through
it's not coming up through Zoom.
Yeah, it's not coming up through this one.
Okay, so well, how about what we do is you can type it in and try and
yeah.
Could we try it from your side?
Let's give that a go, huh?
Okay, so type in high altitude balloon in 1080 HD, 120,000 feet.
Sorry, say that again.
High altitude balloon in 1080 HD, 120,000 feet. So that's this.
High altitude balloon. Okay. Let me see if I can get this back on track. All right. I'm assuming it's this top one. All right, I'm going to play this. 39 minutes? All right, where do I scrub to? Where am I?
Probably closer to the end, like maybe like 35 minutes or something.
It's not lit. Oh, there it is.
See if you can screen share it.
All right, I got the video. So 30.
It's gonna look curved, I think.
Yeah, it does look curved. And you guys say it's the fisheye, right?
Well, yeah, there is a fisheye lens on there. But if you're going through, if we could see, then I could kind of see what we're looking at. 'Cause I don't think I've looked at this video in a while, but I'm pretty sure it's the right one.
Yeah, I've seen this video before. So it's just the air balloon goes up to some type of altitude, and there's a lens on it, but you can see a little bit of curvature throughout. So what do you think happened? Like, did they send the balloon up? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I mean, to me, it just looks like. It really looks like, we're at the bottom of where, like, we're at the base of whatever this stack of air and everything on top of it. It's all kind of ordered by density. So we're right at the top. We're right at the center, kind of layer in the stack, where our bodies are less dense than the ground, but more dense than the air, obviously. The higher up you go, there seems to be less of everything, less gas, less air, less particles.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I don't know what's way up top, like, I don't know, but to me, it just seems like, and it probably cools off or something, but that's what I kind of mean by like this infinite ceiling. Like, I don't even think it's really necessarily like an enclosed system. It's just a dimension, dude. Like our world doesn't have a shape. It's just a dimension. That's it. We're on this plane of existence, and whatever's below, I'm not really sure what's below. People have drilled down, and there just seems to be like a lot of material,
Yeah.
I don't know if it goes down forever, or I don't know if it goes up forever, but we're like at this perfect center point here where everything's like kind of in balance, So it's really interesting. But then, like, how do you, like, what are the stars? What's the moon? What is the sun? What is all that stuff, right?
Well, that's exactly
and
right. Like, what is it though? Like, it's been explained from one end, and like, do you think this? Once again, it's like, obviously you've looked into this, and I think David had the same thing about this thing, and he was like, look, they use a fisheye thing. which means you guys sort of recognize the fact that they've actually sent a balloon up. How can you guys not see the similarity between all the pictures that we have of space and the Earth and stuff, and that picture there in a video that you can watch the whole thing and go like, there's definitely similarities. You can tell where space starts and the Earth starts. It looks very similar, right? You can make out a star or two.
They do film some of this stuff when they launch up a rocket and put on a show. You know, they do film it just above the Earth. And so, but the thing is, they use the fisheye lens so that sometimes it's curved this way, sometimes it's like exactly like that, and sometimes it's curved that way. Like if you watch, like the continuity is insane, bro. If you watch, like go back and watch some of like the Falcon launches and everything, like with that in mind, and you're gonna see it. You don't even have to have it in mind to see it. You can objectively see it. It's like it's going like that. The horizon, I mean, it's going perfectly straight, and then it's going like concave. You know, and it's because they're just using different angles of the lens in every shot. You know, it's just like it's pretty wild. But you know, that is something where we can watch the progress of the balloon start from 0 feet and go all the way up to 120,000 the whole time. That's not something that we can see, you know, when we're watching a live stream of allegedly the Earth spinning around from a satellite, because it's just on a loop every 40 minutes and it's not anything. Like you can literally try and go watch that and you're going to be disappointed because they don't even try to fake it. Like it's just, you know, it's not something that they have. They don't have any real pictures, especially like you would imagine with the supposedly hundreds of satellites that are up there, whatever it is, that we would have like, you know, some kind of live stream going on or the capability to do that, right? But yet it's nowhere. Like there's not a single one. And you know,
all right, well, where do the rockets go then? Like you've seen a rocket take off.
Yeah,
where would they go?
Mean, it's ridiculous. Like that, you know how it goes like that, and it goes way out to sea, right?
So they just
travel. It's
somewhere?
like a truck railway. We're supposed to believe that it's doing that because we're turning away from it. It's ridiculous, bro. Like when you jump in the air, does the Earth like slide out from underneath you? No, it doesn't. It's just they literally just direct it into the Bermuda Triangle, which is right off of where Cape Canaveral is. That's why nobody is really supposed to sail or fly through that triangle, because that's where, you know, they're launching stuff.
Oh, even like with the proof thing, like I'm sure flat earthers had the technology and the capability to go to the Bermuda Triangle and look, right?
Yeah, well, my uncle lives right off the coast there, and like he sees the rockets. I've seen the rockets. Like nobody's denying that they're not shooting things up into the sky, because they absolutely are. But the thing is, they're not going up through the atmosphere into space and all that stuff. They're just launching them out like 100, 200, 300, whatever it is, till you can't see it, and then they're just gonna just nose it down right into the ocean. You know.
But there's people on them.
No, there's nobody on. There's nobody on them, dude. That'd be crazy. Would you get on one of those?
100%, yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
They go to space. As if you're not going to go. How do you space? Like, oh, no, I don't want to do that one. I want to talk about the space station. Like I said, it's all.
Wait, so we don't have to do it.
Yeah, no, do it. Let's do it.
I'll just get into it. Name drop a quick resource for people. If you type into like YouTube or Google, whatever, International Fake Station.
Yeah.
Mike Helnick, HDLNICK. You're going to come up with a video of a professional videographer who takes you through step by step. Like there's probably a bunch of videos, and it's like he goes through all the CGI that they use, how they can simulate like little bits of water and different materials and everything, and like all the green screen layers they're using. Like if you actually look into it, you're just going to be like, wow, that's kind of disappointing how they're just like beaming shit in and getting people to believe that you could actually do that. Like it's it's beyond amazing, bro. Like that's probably the right word for it.
But yeah, but like I also watched, fucking the Avengers movie, and that looked good. But it's
Yeah,
you know
well,
what?
it is, and that's how you can tell that this, the CGI ain't shit. Like for on this compared to a professional movie, like so it should be easy for them,
But we didn't have CGI
So
back in like
I'm
the
honestly
'60s and
surprised
'70s.
why they
So
don't put more effort into making it seem like we're on a ball because they should be able to fake that as well pretty easily, especially when you consider like Interstellar. I mean, the graphics on that, your Gravity or like Avatar, some of those things, it's incredible. It really is. And it's no surprise that people just kind of like associate this with like actual like science fiction with reality because like some of the best movies, I mean, like Star Wars and Star Trek, they're great movies, dude. Like I'm a fan of those movies. Like, they have some of the best actors, the best story writers, the best, Hans Zimmer doing the, with the orchestra and everything's perfect. Like some of the, like he's like probably the number one music director and composer of today, and they get him for these movies. But like, they're great movies, but it's just not representative of reality. It's science fiction, and that's where it belongs.
but I get that, but we didn't have CGI back in 1968 when we took a photo of the Earth.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And when if you download that image, they might have cleaned it up now, but if you download the image, of the blue marble and whatever, you can see there's literally like a box. Like if you change the levels, like it's like whatever kind of Photoshop technology they would have had back then.
I don't think they had. Hold up.
Where they just pasted it in. Yeah.
But where would they get the image from? Like, how would somebody come up with that, and where would they paste it from?
Yeah, probably just a flashlight on a wall with a little color drawing of an Earth.
Photoshop was created in 1988, 20 years later.
Yeah, I mean it's real. That stuff, going back even that far it's really sloppy. The way that
it was 1968. We didn't have very good cameras back in 1968. Like,
yeah, well, dude, that's what they thought. They were just like, okay, we're just gonna do this and get paid a bunch of money because nobody's ever gonna find out because they didn't expect anything like the internet or like high capacity broadband or like mass media television. I mean, they kind of expected mass media television, but they didn't expect something like the internet, like worldwide collaborative technology for like individuals everywhere. They didn't expect stuff like that. So they never thought that people would take the time to like pick this stuff apart and like, see whether there were any inconsistencies or not, So, but I mean, like, dude, honestly, like you should go watch some interviews of like Buzz Aldrin and some of those guys because sometimes they actually get sad. They're like, wow, we actually lied to everybody.
Is there an actual video of that?
There's tons of them, dude. There's tons of them. Like, you gotta listen to
sad Buzz Aldrin.
I'm sure you'll find. Yeah, man. It's like there's one where he's in like this classroom and he's talking to this 8-year-old girl who's like, so did we actually go to the moon or something like that? And he's like, well, actually we didn't, because he had like this little split second of like actual humanity. And he's like, I'm tired of lying about this. That's what was going on in his head. He's like, I don't want to keep lying about this. Like, to innocent children that are being brought up into this lie, this crazy fucking satanic lie.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
Right.
I'm watching the video, sorry.
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen. So in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. But I think I know. Because
Why, Buzz?
we didn't.
No, that's edited
We
together.
didn't.
It's not, man.
That's edited. I just
it's
watched it. It's edited.
Crazy, but now
Well, okay, that might have been edited, but that's what he said, man.
So
and it's
yeah,
like,
okay. Like you take the ramblings of an old man, like you know, like go talk to your
heartbreaking,
grandpa and try
it's heartbreaking.
and then glue it
It's
together.
heartbreaking.
He said
because
we haven't been
that
back.
that old man was convinced to lie to people, and then he was convinced that he could never break that lie, and he could never tell anybody the truth. And that's what happened. You can see the deterioration in somebody when they spend a bunch of their life lying about something to themselves and other people. It takes a toll, man. It takes a toll, and that's really what
Yeah, and
what went down. Like,
and once
it's
again,
just,
if
it's really sad.
if it was true, it would have had a much bigger impact if it wasn't edited. The fact that somebody has taken the time to edit that video to create impact means it's fake. Like it immediately loses traction, right?
Yeah,
it's like
Josh,
if I tell you a story and then I'll
else-
elaborate or embellish on one end, you're not going to believe me when you find out it's fake.
Right, because Josh, everybody else who sees that says the exact same thing. Oh, this would get traction if it was real. Obviously, it's not. So we're just not going to report about it. That's what everybody else says, so it doesn't get reported.
So who put it out?
That's how the mind control works. Because people just think there's no way that it could be. And like I was saying before, like that's what I thought. It's ridiculous. And that, by the way, there's no way for me not to sound condescending when I say that. Okay? So I don't mean to sound. I'm just saying, like, I understand where you're coming from, that it sounds ridiculous because it's such a vast thing,
How does this all attach to control?
Okay. So the way that it attaches to control, I think, is a couple of things. The first thing is, like, we have to kind of step back a little bit. So you're familiar with the idea of the Big Bang, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Big Bang, was this thing where nothing exploded and created everything. And then I'm sure you're familiar with the story, right? There's all these like spirals of matter expanding out in the universe, and stuff starts to gravitate towards one another, like individual particles start to gravitate towards one another. And then they just, eventually form planets and gas balls and like giant rocks and all that type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, let's just chuck a couple billion years at it and then let it kind of, coagulate together, whatever, mix around a little bit, like you're just making some sauce, right? Anyway, so then then eventually we end up with like this rock that we call Earth, and lightning strikes, and somehow that creates life because of like electricity or something. It's like the abiogenesis idea, right? It creates a single-celled organism, and then that thing kind of grows, like it grabs other cells together and becomes like a bigger like mat thing, like whatever. And then somehow that turns into a tiny little fish and has like, and then it grows legs over another million years, right? And then it walks up onto the beach, and then there's another one that kind of the same thing happened, and then they have sex and reproduce and like come up with another one of them, and then another million years pass, and then like it's able to like grab onto trees, and this is all going on. And eventually, long story short, then we get to apes, and then another 60 million years we get to humans or whatever, right? It's like that kind of an idea. So the problem with that is that it's nonsense. You know, it's nonsense, because you could never have one thing like evolve into something else, like, or like reproduce something. At some point there would have to be like this abrupt shift from one species to another species, and it just never happens that way, you know. So anyway, so how does that relate to control? Well, one of the ideas that came from this Big Bang hypothesis idea is the theory of evolution. And it's just kind of a sad thing, because we're not the same as animals. Like, we're not meant to be treated just like another species. Like, we're not supposed to just be like, let's just experiment on people, because like they're not like that really special or anything. They're basically nothing more than a sophisticated monkey man, right? So that's a bad idea that comes from this kind of a thought process, and people can get really carried away with those kind of ideas, especially if they actually believe them, and it's just like that's one of the kind of emotions that can result from this cosmology of nothing exploding and creating everything, versus the cosmology of something, which is that this place was created purposefully, and that we were put here at the center of creation as perfect beings in a perfect state of nature, and we're able to exalt that perfect state of nature to something even greater. For example, like making something like this, out of trees, because it's, we're able to take something and create something awesome. It's not just like, everything's an accident and we're here as tiny little things among like billions of other rocks, and we're not really that special, and like nothing kind of matters, in the sense that there's so much of everything, so our petty little lives here don't really matter that much, right? Like, all of those thoughts can come from that type of a worldview, where we're in this infinite dark abyss kind of a thing, and we're just not special compared to, because there must be millions of other planets like us and all that type of thing, right? Like, if you look up at the sky, like, I don't know if I could, okay, but if you look up at the sky, like that's all there is, man. There's no infinite black darkness beyond that. It's just that. Like, it's just that,
But why?
That's where we live.
Like, it's the same argument though. Like, the Big Bang, like things were created out of nothing, and then humans were just created out of nothing, is the same fucking thing, man.
No, it's different. It's different, because
how so?
When
just things just appeared out of nowhere.
Because when you have the idea, it's that it's on purpose versus by accident, that changes everything. It's whether it's created by a creator or created by accident. You can't, they're mutually exclusive. So, if you think that we're just created and, by accident, and we just kind of formed over billions of years and all that type of thing, and we're not really special, and there's nothing significant about our lives, our thoughts create a reality. So that thought process is exactly how your life is going to go, if that's what you think, versus being a divine being that's created by that was placed here somehow magically by this, in this created world, for us to be here expanding the consciousness of God or the creator or the source of energy and light in this world. However you want to look at it. There's many different religions and things like that throughout history who've all had their own take on that idea. And that's what makes the world so interesting, because everybody's own take, an individual or a nation or, some kind of community, they all have their different, like a country, like they've all had their different takes on what that means to them. You know, that's why you get like, sometimes you get like the Norse mythology with, you know, Odin and Loki and all those guys, right? It's epic stories, dude. Like, it's really cool. And then you'll get what's the other one? There's plenty, you know, like the Indian type of thing, or like Buddhism. You know, I mean, there's many like really powerful lessons in all of these teachings, and it's really an amazing thing to learn about that stuff. But it starts from this shared understanding that existed plainly in the world. It was like a universal thought that everybody just knew that this place, you know, we exist in a dimension and it's created, you know, versus what happened, you know, where it's like, then they said, oh, it's an accident. And like, you know, we're just here for no reason, but just do your best or whatever, you know? So yeah. It's this shift that's kind of taken over. This kind of nihilistic thing.
That's fine when you apply it to a community-based thing where we go, we're all special and we're all put here for a purpose. But when you put it in like a worldwide view, it just doesn't make sense. Why is there war? Why is it rape? Why is there murder? Why is there rape? Why is there, you know, why are kids getting cancer? If we're all these divine beings and divine humans, who gets to dictate who turns out like this?
Okay, so here's the thing. People can do bad things with their God-given free will, you know, and part of it is because they make justifications for it. They rationalize things like, you know, they'll say, like, let me rape somebody because it doesn't really matter. And
then how is it a bad thing if we're all divine? Isn't it? Well, if we're all divine and we're all created, it's not necessarily a bad thing then. Because it's purposeful, it's built by design, and we're designed to do that. So those people who are doing bad things, it's an intentional thing, right? If we're all built and designed.
Yeah, but like there's also there's definitely a force of evil that exists in this world, whether it's elemental or it's just something that occurs within the hearts of men and women, I suppose, right? Like, you know, there's definitely some kind of evil force. And so what I feel that evil force does is it tries to rob us of our divinity. It tries to try to convince us to sell our souls, you know? And like, you could sell your soul in a lot of ways, you know, by believing liars. Maybe, you know, you're kind of still in control of your soul, but like, if you go out and kill somebody, like, you're definitely your soul is gone. You know, you're going to be condemned to hell for the rest of your life. It's not like there's some after thing. Like, I mean, there might be, we don't know, but like, if you kill somebody or you convince somebody to kill somebody, you're definitely going to be doomed to eternal hell for as long as you live. And actually, you're going to be dead. And so this is what I think happens. This is why I think some people become so interested in making others miserable, because that's the only way that they can feel anything, you know? That's the only way that they can feel any kind of, you know, feeling at all or emotion, is by convincing somebody else to do something bad. Because at a certain point, the nihilism that has taken over, you know, they're going to realize like, wow, we've actually outdone our welcome with the creator here. And so, you know, we're going to convince our population to go to war with somebody else because, you know, we said that they're a bad guy or something. Right. Mm-hmm. So,
but it, like, America being like pretty heavy Christianly based, right? And you guys are instigators of many wars. Wouldn't that be you?
Right. Not at all. Okay. Because,
but once again, you're applying this to an individual level, like, or is this community level, or is this a?
Yeah, but I haven't taken part in any wars. I would never do that.
But isn't that like picking and choosing? It's like, oh no, that was my friends who did it, but you were there.
Yeah, but you can't just like identify myself as like,
Yeah, not you
like,
as an individual. No, definitely not. But that's just a way of going like, I don't want to be a part of it because my individual beliefs. But that's as a country, right? You guys are all like heavily religious in terms of Christianity, and you guys still go to war on a regular basis.
I'm like, bro, you're looking at an exception, dude. Like, I wasn't.
Say it is, but you guys have been at war for hundreds of years. I think there's only like a very short period of time where you guys haven't been at war.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, dude, it's like that's not. There's a lot more to like Christianity than just wars, you know. And
oh, definitely.
We can get into, you know, why that is and who's behind it and who's not, you know.
But aren't some of those people Christian as well? Some of your leaders are Christian. I think it's once again, it's a statistic that you have to be like from a religious, especially Christian background to become president. I could look it up. How many presidents?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is what these guys do. They try to divide everybody. You know, it's like, bro, I'm telling you, dude. Like, I don't share any of the morality of these supposedly Christian leaders who are doing all this fucked up shit, you know, like, you know, and there is a group that they're all part of that they, you know, they do all this stuff, you know, and they pretend to be Christian, but they're not true Christian. They're not true followers of the Christian church. That's, you know, that's the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled, dude, is pretending to be godly and really not. It's the same thing as saying that we're on a ball and, you know, hiding God from the world, you know.
But I think there's still people who believe in the globe and still are religious, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that'd have no impact. Like the world being flat or a globe.
It's just a different thing though, because dude, at some point, like, when you understand what the flat earth is, like, all of, like I was saying before, like, all that competitive stuff goes out the window. Because I mean, like, right, on an individual level, like, it's, you know, I'm still kind of competitive sometimes, right? But like, you know, just in terms of like resources and like that kind of stuff, and especially like interpretations of what God is and all that stuff, like, all that stuff's ridiculous, man. There's no contest about who's got the right God, who's got the right faith and everything, because all those ideas, you know, have come from this, like, this sort of contest. But the thing is, like, if you talk to somebody from the Islamic world, or you talk to somebody from, you know, maybe like some Jewish people, or, you know, you talk to different people who have the belief in a God, the amount of common ground that you can find is absolutely amazing. Because it's like, it's not a different guy. It's not a different guy for all. It's the same God. It's the same creator, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
that,
and like, the other thing, bro, is like a lot of Christianity and stuff, like a lot of the stories and everything, like, people, you know, they're told as if they're like true because you have to get people to pay attention. But as you get older, you kind of understand, like, okay, maybe some of this is like kind of like allegorical stories to teach a certain morality, you know, or a certain set of social norms, or, you know, various things that help a community to be a community.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I agree with that. That's I firmly believe that that's exactly what's happened. Like, I do believe that there's a set of rules in life that you need to abide by. I just don't believe in that set of rules. I believe that morality has a strong part to play in what we think we can and can't do. And we all know these things. Like, we all know murder is bad. Like, that is one of those, like, ones that's really defined. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not good across the board. And I think if you know, we can all go, look, there's a set of rules that we do need to abide by to get by. But it becomes a little bit blurry, I think, across religions. And that's not even just religions. Like atheists do it as well. Atheists are, once again, it's this hierarchy of social currency. It's like who's a little bit more than the other, and then that's when it becomes complicated. It's ego is probably the main contributor and driver of people extending themselves outside of these rules that have been set by whatever you want to think it is, like whether it be eons of time or a book. There is a set of rules. It's just like I look. I don't have any issue with religion. It's sorry, you go.
I just wanted to say, like, the most important rule is not to steal, and it's kind of almost like everybody's down here in the world lake learning not to steal from one another, not to steal one another's divinity or free will or anything or life, because the idea of theft, that can go to literally every single one of the commandments and all that stuff, like that's the most important thing. Don't steal. It's really pretty simple. But people just seem not to get that message, dude. And like, I mean, you guys, like I said before, like you guys did okay, I think, in terms of the the worldwide illness thing that's going on. But there's some people, some areas where they're going around doing this, demanding people sell their soul. That's how I see it anyway. So, it's like, it's really sad, man. It's really sad because, like, I didn't come to this idea, this notion, this cosmology of where we are by accident. Like, I was searching for answers my whole life, and I was in this, dark, endless abyss searching for answers. And it wasn't until I heard somebody say something like, yeah, a lot of Western civilization is built on like this particular morality that's taught from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And I said, wow, that's an interesting claim. Our morality is predicated on some of those teachings. That's interesting. Maybe I'll think about that. And, it's kind of like, it's kind of true. It's kind of true, but it's also like, once you understand that, then it answers some questions about like why some people turn out to be like kind of decent people and some people turn out to be like kind of shitty people because they're all in it for themselves and under all these assumptions and bad ideas that we were talking about that got laid down from this Big Bang type of thing a while ago. And it's sad because the thing is, dude, it's like, it's not exclusive. Like the whole Christianity thing, it's not exclusive to anybody. It's open for everybody. It's the gift that's freely available. You just have to take it.
I think that the issue with most religion is it comes with a incredibly strict set of rules. It comes with this, like, I've had many discussions with people about this where it's like, if you don't follow our rules, regardless of your morality, regardless of your upbringing, regardless of your community, you're going to be punished, and you're going to be punished forever. Like nobody lives by a strict set of rules. It's the biggest crock of shit ever. And that's probably the biggest thing that people have a problem with. Religion is fantastic. One, it gives you a two lines to walk between. And on either side of the line, there's, it's bad outside. So
there's a virtue between two vices, in other words.
It gives you a community to discuss things with. It gives you a platform and a structure of life. Humans have no idea what we're fucking doing. We're making it up as we go. So having these bounds to hold you straight and to guide you through life is fantastic. But once again, it's you can't have a humanistic thing attached to a religious notion because it immediately just brings on ego. Who's more religious? And then who's going to be punished more? Like that whole like glass houses. Look at all the people over whatever period of time who have been deeply religious and have been deeply disturbed at the same time. And once again, you can't apply it to all religious things or whatever. And it's not everybody involved. It's these staunch believers who push themselves over the edge trying to fulfill a destiny or a need that they have made up themselves. They've gone, here's my rules, right? Here's whatever it has given me and taught me. I'm going to fucking whittle it down so I'm the best one. And nobody can live within those restraints. It's impossible. It's impossible to live a perfect life. Spencer, have you broken any of the commandments? Have you stepped outside of your religious belief just once?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Now you're going to be punished. You're going to hell.
You have to remember that I don't know if I explained that before. Like, I left all that stuff for a while because I thought they didn't have like great answers, you know? So yeah, but I mean, like, dude, harsh rules and everything, like, it's not always the worst thing in the world, because you know, you have to kind of assume maybe sometimes that like there is something that we could learn from our elders who lived in the past and kind of figured some stuff out, you know? Like, that's all I'd say with respect to that. It's just like, you know, there has to be some type of like jumping off point, like a reference point from like whatever existed previously. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's but like that I agree with, like, but to an extent, like, but once again, it's you try and factor in like emotional wants and needs of somebody who can't get it, living within these strict guidelines. Humans are built different. We're created different. Everybody is an individual. Even if you believe in that model that we're all created differently. That's the joy of life, that there is an abundance and an unlimited amount of experience that you can get from just talking to another person. That is the joy of being human. You know what I mean? But if you live within a strict set of rules, those people don't exist. And this is where like the psychological part of it applies. This emotional damage that applies to being forced to do something you're not willing to do or you don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to be part of anything. I'm not.
No, that's right. That's what I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying I think that's the only issue I have with religion. That's it. And it's.
Yeah,
it's, you know, well, I believe that there's so much good in it and there's so much we can learn and take from it. But I believe, but just like any sort of case or cause or purpose, there's the people who take it way too far, just to benefit themselves. Too much ego is involved and they dilute the message to fulfill their own needs and wants.
100%, dude. Like, organized religions are not immune to deception, and they're also not immune to people who want to, you know, slice off a little bit and have like an office or whatever the fuck they want to do, like, and have some influence, you know. People, that's what a lot of religion and schisming and stuff has been about. You know, they'll make like little controversies about, I mean, the most famous one was a while ago when they were talking about what's the true nature of Christ. Is he the Son of God or is he like actually God? You know, that whole thing. And that caused like a giant rift. And like a bunch of church leaders went and kind of started their own thing, and some other people, you know, they wanted to have a different idea about it or whatever. So, I mean, but the thing is, like, it's still part of the same thing. At least you're still getting the message out to people versus, you know, the religion that we have today, which is like NASA, which is, you know, probably the biggest religion in the world today. And that's just all about nihilism. So like, ask yourself, which one's better? I mean,
but you're just attaching a weird notion to NASA, going it's nihilism. It's definitely not. There's nihilism in religion as well. Like, it's like even the fact that people are fighting over is Jesus a God. Like, it's if Jesus was the Son of God, it's not our place to dictate where he sat. It's ridiculous. And then once again, to attach the same thing that like nihilism is NASA. NASA doesn't try and change your mind. It just puts stuff out there. But then you can just automatically attach that same thing to Christianity. You know what I mean? You can attach the story of Christ that has been passed down, how is NASA doing anything different? They're just putting information out there, and if
Because
you
it's
want it,
only
you can
been
take it.
60 years versus 1,000 years.
So what? Just
But-
a religion is based off time.
No, it's not that. It's just that one of them's based off of lies and one of them's based off truth. So
But who's to dictate the truth and the falsities behind?
you are to use your discernment
I like
to
that.
figure out which one's true and which one's lie. Which one is a bunch of lies.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to you.
But no people are lesser humans for being one or the other. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, well, just like you being religious and me believing in science, like I don't think you're any lesser of a human. Like we're all still people at the end of the day. It's just your beliefs behind it. Like I don't see you any differently. Like if we were to have a non-podcast chat, it'd be just us shooting the shit. The only reason why we're talking about this is
and I'm sure we'd be best of friends,
That's what I mean.
Like, and I think we are, it's just like, yeah, what I'm just trying to say is like, dude, I mean, like, I don't know if I've even said that I'm very religious, it's just like, I just happen to believe that there's these kind of spiritual guides that show up in life,
Mm-hmm.
And they're, their personalities may be attached to these institutions that have kind of survived the test of time. And there's things that, they're kind of like here as helpers, maybe to like learn a thing or two from, that's kind of what I feel about a lot of these, a lot of these institutions and like the culture heroes that they pop up sort of, so to speak, like, Jesus and even like the Buddha, similar story, by the way. Although we didn't get crucified, but, or like Muhammad, these guys, like they have their teachings have a lot of wisdom. And I don't think on a personal level, I think it's probably good to teach one, at least like whatever your language is in, whatever that one is, to teach to your kids. But, I think there's something to be learned from like every single one.
I agree. And with that, I got to wrap it up, my friend Spencer. It's been fantastic talking to you. I love these things. I love being able to just sort of go back and forth with somebody with a different view of the world. I guess that's what podcasting is about, and I guess that's the joy of being able to talk to people from all over. Is there anything you want to leave with, my man?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, likewise. This has been a real pleasure. You're an amazing guy. We should definitely talk more. Like, I'd be interested in hearing about what your hobbies are and things.
Sure, man.
But just in terms of where you guys could find me, again, it's soundcloud.com/thelightofallnations. And, I'm aiming to like spend some more time talking about some of my ideas there. So yeah.
I'll post it below anyway. So usually I'll post the link in the description. Everybody can go check it out. Everybody can go have a listen. Once again, thank you so much for your time, man. Have a beautiful day. It looks lovely where you are, by the way. Wherever you're at, looks fantastic.
It is.
All right, Spencer. Have a good one, my friend.
All right, you too, man. Thank you.
See you,
Bye-bye.
legend. Bye-bye. Yeah. That was Spencer, everybody. What a good chat. I didn't mind that. That was nice. It's good. Good times. Good chats. Once again, check everything out. If you're liking the show, share it. Go tell your friends about it. Go do the follows and the sending the links to your family and just harassing everybody, telling about some strange man in Australia bothering other people around the world. Other than that, check out the website, wawdh.com.au. Hopefully, if it kicks up a little bit more, we can get some merch rolling out. That's it. Everybody, if you want to go leave me a like or a 5-star review on iTunes just to push it up a little bit, that'd be tip top. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.